This is Nightline and I am Nadia Azmi. News making the headlines. No serious side effects reported from children's vaccination. And Malaysia-Singapore vaccinated travel lane restored. Since the National COVID-19 Immunisation Programme for Children PIC Kids began on February 3rd, only 8 adverse events following immunisation, AEFI reports have been received. Deputy Health Minister Dr. Noor Azmi Ghazali said all cases experiencing mild side effects included swelling at the injection site after receiving the vaccine.
CITF ni tugas khas ni akan bermesyuarat lagi pada hari Khamis ni. Walaupun dengan mesyuarat yang lepas pada 12 bulan 2 kita hanya ada 8 kes yang dapat laporan tentang AEFI iaitu 0.006%, di mana Sarawak 5, Sabah 2 dan 1 daripada ibu bapa. Dan semua ni adalah kes yang tidak berat, yang ringan.
He said this at a media conference after visiting the Special Vaccination Centre SPPV at the Raja Perempuan Zainab II Hospital on Wednesday. He also said recipients have been informed and they can lodge a report should there be any side effects related to the COVID-19 vaccine. Datuk Dr. Noor Azmi, who is also COVID-19 Immunisation Task Force for Children, CITFC Chairman, said the vaccination rate through PIC Kids nationwide so far was still low at about 7%. In other news, a total of 246,869 children aged between 5 and 11, or 7% of the group in Malaysia, have received the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine as of Tuesday under the National COVID-19 Immunisation Programme for Children, PIC Kids. Based on the COVID Now website, a total of 13,486,823 individuals, or 57.3% of the adult population in the country, had received their booster dose as of Tuesday. It stated that 97.5% of adults have completed their vaccination, while 98.7% of individuals have received at least one dose of the vaccine. As for adolescents aged 12 to 17, a total of 89.9% have completed their vaccination, while 92.5% have received at least one dose of the vaccine. On Tuesday, a total of 154,776 vaccine doses were dispensed, with 42,374 as the first dose, including 39,749 for children aged between 5 and 11. AstraZeneca delivered a further 1,365,200 doses of COVID-19 vaccine AstraZeneca to Malaysia on Wednesday, marking the successful completion of its commitment to supply 6.4 million doses under the advance purchase agreement with the Malaysian government. Country President AstraZeneca Malaysia, Dr. Sanjeev Panchal, said due to the emergence of Omicron variant and the dynamic challenges presented by the virus, AstraZeneca will continue to support the government and the people throughout the changing course of the pandemic. He said to date, more than 9.2 million doses of AstraZeneca's vaccine have been delivered to Malaysia through direct supply COVAX and donations from other countries in support of the country's vaccination program. AstraZeneca has supplied over 2.5 billion doses of COVID-19 vaccine AstraZeneca to over 170 countries, with approximately two-thirds of doses going to low and lower middle-income countries. Malaysia's daily COVID-19 cases rose to 27,831, eclipsing the previous record of 24,599 set in August last year. This is an increase of 5,698 cases from Tuesday's 22,133. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said this brought the cumulative total to 3,111,514 cases since the pandemic began. He also pointed out that just 97 or 0.35% of the new cases were in categories 3 to 5 that required hospitalization. The remaining 99.65% were in categories 1 and 2, which were asymptomatic to moderately symptomatic. Ticket sales for both the land and air vaccinated travel lane (VTL) between Malaysia and Singapore have been allowed to resume fully with immediate effect. Transport Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Wee Ka Siong, in announcing the matter, said there would be no limits on capacity, but added that bus travel may only resume from February 22nd onwards. In a statement on Wednesday, Datuk Seri Wee said the VTL initiative had successfully allowed more international travel and has boosted the tourism sector while contributing to the economic revival effort. He added that Malaysia and Singapore are currently in advanced discussions to expand the VTL by air to Pulau Pinang and Kota Kinabalu. And in regards to this, the Transport Ministry, together with Malaysia Airports Holdings Berhad, are in the midst of preparing the necessary COVID-19 screening facilities and other related facilities to make these new VTL initiatives a success.
The recreation industry, a revenue earner for the tourism sector. With new and more infectious COVID-19 variants, what's next for the industry? Malaysia's ambition to become the theme park capital of the region, what does it take to turn it into reality? Money Matters with the Malaysian Association of Theme Park and Family Attractions President Tan Sri Richard Koh this Saturday at 5 p.m. only on TV3.
The change of the Sarawak Chief Minister's designation to Premier will only come into force after it is gazetted. State Tourism, Creative Industry and Performing Arts Minister Datuk Seri Abdul Karim Rahman Hamzah said following the State Legislative Assembly's approval of the Constitutional Amendment Bill to rename the title, it would have to go through the process of gazettement and a date appointed by the head of state for it to come into force.
Dari segi guaman, yang sepatutnya patut kita menunggu ia digazetkan karena apa yang telah dipersetujui dan dirumuskan dalam Dewan Undangan Negeri, iaitu dewan yang paling tinggi membuat undang-undang, ia ada proses seterusnya yang mana ia perlu dibawa kepada tuan yang terutama, iaitu Gubernur, dan selain daripada itu digazetkan. Selepas itu baru ia boleh digunapakai. Satu tarikh akan ditetapkan oleh kerajaan bila ia boleh digunakan.
The Constitution of the State of Sarawak Amendment Bill was tabled by Datuk Seri Abdul Karim on Tuesday and passed with a 2/3 majority, with 67 members voting in favour and 6 opposition members against it. Besides renaming the Chief Minister as Premier, the bill also redesignated Assistant Ministers as Deputy Ministers and included a new interpretation of the Federation of Malaysia. Datuk Seri Abdul Karim said although the process could take a few days to as long as 6 months, he felt it wouldn't be long before the law is gazetted.
Piala AFF bawah 23. Hanya di TV9.
Woman found beheaded by stepson. The details when we return. Two former Goldman Sachs colleagues will face off in a Brooklyn courtroom on Wednesday in a trial over the looting of hundreds of millions of dollars from one MDB sovereign wealth fund. According to Reuters, prosecutors will call the star witness, Tim Leisner, a former Goldman partner and Malaysian Roger Ng's former boss at the bank's Southeast Asia operation. Ng, 49, Goldman's former head of investment banking in Malaysia, is charged with conspiring to launder money and violate an anti-bribery law. Leisner, 52, in 2018, pleaded guilty to money laundering and bribery charges and agreed to cooperate with the government's investigation. Leisner will likely be questioned by the US government about Ng's alleged involvement in a scheme to embezzle some of those funds, use some of them to bribe officials to win business for Goldman and keep some for themselves. Earlier, the court was told how now fugitive businessman Low Tech Joe, or better known as Jolo, allegedly blew millions from one MDB, throwing lavish, star-studded parties. The figures were revealed by Alex Cohen, Chief Financial Officer of Strategic Group, during Tuesday's session in a federal court in the New York borough of Brooklyn. Strategic Group is an entertainment and marketing company that arranged parties for Jolo to the extent that Cohen told the trial Low's parties made up at least 25% of the company's profits in 2012. Cohen said apart from DiCaprio, some of the other A-listers paid to attend Low's parties were Paris Hilton, Megan Fox and Kim Kardashian. In Kelantan, a 54-year-old woman was decapitated by his stepson at Kampung Dalam Sendo in Gua Musang. Gua Musang District Police Chief Superintendent Sik Chun Fu said the police were alerted about the case at about 4:55 p.m. on Wednesday, after the suspect, aged 39 years old, reported the incident to the police and turned himself in. In his report, the suspect revealed that he killed his stepmother with a machete. Police who went to the scene found the victim with the head separated from the body. The suspect was subsequently arrested and police are now investigating the motive for the murder. Preliminary investigation revealed that the suspect is a drug addict with multiple criminal records and is mentally unstable. The victim's body was later sent to Gua Musang Hospital for post-mortem. Still in Kelantan, the Royal Malaysian Customs Department JKDM has seized 2.48 million sticks of white cigarettes worth 2.18 million ringgit, including tax, after it raided an unnumbered house at Bengkalan Chepe on Monday. Kelantan JKDM Director Muhammad Nasir Rahman said the 4 p.m. raid was carried out by a team from the Kota Bharu Enforcement Branch following a public tip-off. Muhammad Nasir said the cigarettes were valued at 496,000 ringgit with a tax value of 1.68 million ringgit. He added that the modus operandi used is to bring in the cigarettes through the border near Sungai Golok and use the house to temporarily store the cigarettes before being distributed for the local market. The Kelantan JKDM is in the midst of identifying the house owner and the case is being investigated under the Customs Act. Muhammad Nasir continued that the perpetrators, if convicted, can be fined not less than 10 times the value of the goods or 100,000 ringgit, whichever is higher, and not more than 20 times the value of goods or 500,000 ringgit, whichever is higher, or face a jail time of between 6 months and 5 years or both. In Pera, police uncovered a syndicate operating as a drug processing laboratory and distribution centre in a rented house at Meru Raya, Ipoh. According to State Police Chief Datuk Mayor Farida Lathrash Wahid, 6 suspects aged between 21 and 39 were arrested on Sunday and Monday. The suspects were nabbed during 5 raids in Pera and Negeri Sembilan mounted by the Narcotics Criminal Investigation Department team from Bukit Aman and the Perak Police Contingent. Police confiscated drugs believed to be heroin, weighing about 9.4 kilograms and 1.14 kilograms of shabu, with about 167,268 ringgit found in the double-storey terrace house. The syndicate has been active since the middle of last year. 2 of them tested positive for drugs, while all of them had previous criminal records related to criminal cases and drugs. All the suspects are being remanded for 6 days until Saturday to assist in the investigation. The case is being investigated under the Dangerous Drugs Act. Police also confiscated various assets of the syndicate, estimated to be worth more than 181,000 ringgit, bringing the total value of seized drugs and goods to almost 349,000 ringgit. A man was reported missing and feared drowned after his four-wheel drive plunged into a river at Kampung Tembila in Besut, Terengganu on Wednesday. The incident is believed to have occurred at about 6 a.m. as the victim, 52-year-old Shukri Wahab, and his wife Aziza Muhammad Yusof, aged 51, were on their way from Tawang in Bachok, Kelantan towards Kuala Terengganu. The victim's wife was rescued after she was found clinging to a tree branch at around 9 a.m. and has been sent to the hospital for treatment. Besut District Police Chief Superintendent Abdul Razak Muhammad said they received information about the incident at 7:25 a.m. The driver is believed to have lost control of the vehicle as it approached the Tembila Bridge and crashed into a barrier before it fell into the river. Meanwhile, Besut Fire and Rescue Station Chief Assistant Fire Superintendent Muhammad Juso said they received a call regarding the incident at about 6:52 a.m. and 24 members were deployed to the scene. The search and rescue operation was suspended at 7 p.m. due to poor light condition. Still to come, NATO accuses Russia of increasing numbers of troops. Welcome back. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, has accused Russia of increasing numbers of troops to a massive military buildup around Ukraine, even as Moscow said that it was withdrawing forces and was open to diplomacy. At the start of 2 days of talks among NATO defense ministers, its Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg appeared unconvinced that the threat of a Russian invasion of Ukraine had lessened and voiced guarded hopes for diplomacy. Though the Russian Defense Ministry published a video that it says shows tanks, infantry fighting vehicles and self-propelled artillery units leaving the Crimean Peninsula, which Moscow seized from Ukraine in 2014, Stoltenberg cautioned that Russians have frequently repositioned military equipment and troops during the build-up. Thus, movement of forces and battle tanks does not confirm a real withdrawal. Therefore, he said NATO will instead consider new steps to deter Russia on its eastern flank, including a likely pledge to send more troops and equipment to NATO members in Eastern Europe. In other news, imprisoned Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny vowed on Tuesday that he would keep challenging Russia's leadership. Speaking during the opening of a new fraud trial that could extend his jail term by more than a decade, Navalny said that he refused to back down and is not afraid of the court's decision. Navalny appeared at the beginning of the hearing via a video link wearing a prison uniform and flanked by guards at the makeshift court inside his penal colony, smiling and embracing his wife. The 45-year-old opposition leader has already been behind bars for a year after surviving a poison attack he and Washington blame on the Kremlin. He is serving out a 2.5-year sentence on old embezzlement charges, but the fresh charges could see his time behind bars significantly extended. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, in the meantime, said he was troubled by dubious new charges against Navalny and called for his release. Philippines' former boxing star and presidential candidate Manny Pacquiao will welcome an international probe into President Rodrigo Duterte's war on drugs if elected. Speaking to foreign journalists this week, Pacquiao promised to fight narcotics the right way, with due process and not with street shootings. He said he would also be open to rejoining the International Criminal Court (ICC), which Duterte unilaterally withdrew the Philippines from in 2018. Previously, Duterte caused international outrage with his war on drugs and has dared the ICC to investigate him for crimes against humanity. He has maintained those killed were all dealers who had violently resisted arrest and has publicly encouraged police to shoot suspects in self-defense and said he would pardon those jailed for the killings. The president's office did not respond to requests for comments on Pacquiao's remarks. Pacquiao at the moment is trailing in opinion polls in the run-up to the May election, behind frontrunner Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and Vice President Leni Robredo. Singapore will expand its quarantine-free travel program to Hong Kong, Qatar, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates this month and will progressively add more destinations under the scheme. In announcing the matter, the country's health ministry said it will also restore and increase quotas under its vaccinated travel program, which had been reduced in December to deal with the Omicron variant of the coronavirus. Singapore will also streamline border measures for travellers from most countries and remove an entry approval requirement for eligible long-term pass holders, making it easier for expatriates to travel. On Tuesday, the country reported a record 19,179 local coronavirus infections, but a majority of the cases had mild or no symptoms. The government said the caseload was within expectations and that the overall situation in the healthcare system remained stable. Jeffrey falters. Malaysia's Beijing Winter Olympics challenge ends. Stay tuned. sports. Malaysia's challenge at the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics came to an end after national alpine skier Jeffrey Webb failed to make headway in the men's slalom event at the Yang King National Alpine Ski Centre on Wednesday. Jeffrey, the first Malaysian athlete to make 2 appearances at the Winter Olympics after his debut in the 2018 edition in Pyeongchang, South Korea, fell at the beginning of the Run 1, which prevented him from continuing in the event after he was classified as did not finish DNF. The classification denied him the chance to compete in Run 2 to continue his challenge for the overall best position. The result saw the 23-year-old US-based athlete suffer misfortune for the second time in a row after failing to finish in the same event 4 years ago. French skier Clement Noël put down a blistering second run to win the event on Wednesday. Noël moved up from 6th following the first leg to beat first run leader Johanna Strolz of Austria by 0.61 seconds after posting the fastest second run. World champion Sebastian Foss Solberg of Norway held his position and picked up the bronze, finishing 0.70 behind. Noël finished 4th in the slalom at the 2018 Pyeongchang Games. Strolz also won the gold medal in the combined last week. On to football. A COVID-hit Singapore under-23 football team fell to a 3-1 loss to Thailand in their AFF Under-23 Championship Group C opener on Wednesday. The match in Phnom Penh saw the Singaporean side deprived of at least 10 players due to a variety of reasons. 3 players had earlier tested positive for the virus on the eve of the match. 5 others had also shown signs of fever and were unwell. But despite the circumstances, it was Singapore who took the lead in the 16th minute via Ilhan Fandi. And just as it seemed like Singapore would go into the break with an advantage, Tirasat Poi Pimai levelled the score on the stroke of half-time. The Thais added 2 more goals in the 57th minute via Nepipon Wongpanya and in the 62nd minute with Tirasat's second goal of the match. Still on football, Western Sydney Wanderers defeated Melbourne victory 2-0 in an A-League tie on Wednesday in Sydney. Tate Russell helped the hosts by taking the lead 10 minutes after the interval, and Dimitrios Petratos sealed the victory for Mark Rudan's side by converting a penalty in the 80th minute. The result means the Wanderers moved up to 8th place on the table from 11th, and the victory dropped on spot from the 5th to the 6th after 11 rounds of the competition. And that's it for Nightline this time around. As we wrap up, we leave you with this molten iron show held at the World Park in Beijing for the Lantern Festival and 15th day of the Lunar New Year, where performers heat up molten iron in a blast furnace and splash it into the sky, creating firework-like displays. With that, I'm Nadia Azmi. Thank you for watching and stay safe.